Hey, it's Andrew here at BTO Range, Conroe, Texas. Today we have a Remington 700 rifle here on the bench. This is a ADL version in 270, and we're going to do, it's got the old style Walker trigger. We're going to drop this Timney trigger unit in it. We do a lot of Timney triggers and Trigger Tech triggers on Remington 700s here at the range, and we actually offer a pretty decent service if the customer buys a trigger from us. We drop it in at no charge. So the first thing we're going to do is clear the rifle. So we're going to pull the bolt back, and this gun we're actually going to remove the bolt all the way from the rifle just to get it out of the way. So we're going to have to remove the barrel to action from the stock. So on this gun there's going to be 3 screws. The primary screw here. I forgot this older screwdriver set, the magnet's dead in it. We replace these screwdrivers, these Walker screwdrivers, about every year, just to keep fresh bits and good magnetization in there. So none of these 3 screws interchange, so you've got to keep them where they need to be. We can actually remove this little trigger guard. There's a washer that goes on the trigger guard just like that. So we'll set it with that. And now we can just remove the stock assembly and set it off to the side. Magazine, floor plate and spring off to the side. And just to make life a little bit easier, we're going to remove this magazine box. I may have to get a different bit for this. This may be a little wide. Nope, it's coming. Pure laziness on my part. I really should have gotten a narrower bit to do that, but it is fitting the slot. It's just overhanging the edges. Allow this magazine box to come out. So now, I didn't bring my... Now we have to defeat some pins. There are 2 pins that hold this together, and we have to be cautious of this bolt relief spring that lives right here, because the bolt release spring index off of this pin here. There's a pin that goes through here, but it's blocked by the actual bolt release itself. So we have to pull this pin first, remove the bolt release, and we'll pull that pin. So it's easier for me. The pin is pointed at one end, and it's flat at this end. So it goes in, obviously pointed in first. But I'm going to go ahead and remove it since it's kind of halfway out that way. The pins aren't splined. They're not truly directional other than the fact it's easier to insert them from the point first. So we're going to be cautious of this spring, so I don't want it launching into space. So I'm going to put my hand here. Remove this pin, and you'll see that releases this spring to come out, and now we can remove this bolt catch out. We have one more pin to go, but now we can get to it right there. So it's the same kind of deal, except now we can come from this side, from the flat end, and just drive it on through. Notice the 2 pins are different lengths, right? There's a front and a rear. The front of the short one goes to the front of the trigger guard. So now we've released the sear, and the sear spring, which is a separate component in a factory Remington trigger. So that's going to come loose. Trigger's going to come out the bottom. The sear is loose. So that's the sear spring, and this trigger. This is a factory Remington 700 older style trigger housing. So this one is, I guess, the later old style, if you will, because it doesn't have the bolt lock coming off of this flange right here. That's what we used to cut those off to allow the bolt to open with the safety in the safe mode, but now Remington has done that, since the 80s. So this is a narrow shoe trigger. We're putting in a wide shoe trigger. Sometimes that gives us a little bit of a problem with The trigger guard, hopefully this gun is new enough, we should be able to fit through that. Occasionally on the older ADLs, you'll have to relieve, but if you put a wide shoe trigger in, you'll have to relieve the trigger guard, and you may have to relieve some of the inletting in the stock as well when we go to put that trigger in. Now, when you're looking at triggers, whether it's Trigger Tech or whether it's Timney, you need to make sure that you have what you need for the Remington 700. So the trigger on the Remington 700 incorporates both the bolt release lever, this lever right here that you see moving back and forth, that's what powers the bolt release. And then the safety obviously is on this side. So the triggers are available with or without the bolt release. If you have a rifle that has the bolt release is otherwise Remington 700 pattern, such as a Bergara B14, they have the bolt release in the side of the receiver here, the bolt lock in the side of the receiver. So you don't need the bolt release in the rifle. So you would buy the appropriate trigger without the bolt release. And likewise, there are guns that have 700 trigger compatibility that don't use the safety that's mounted on the side of the trigger. So make sure you're getting the right trigger for the gun. So this one has the safety on it. It also has the bolt release. It's a 510-V2 Timney. The Elite Hunter, it's adjustable from 1.5 to 4 pounds. So that gives us a good set of adjustment for hunting use. They kind of glue these things in there with this little stuff on them. So these are the settings, and Timney actually marks what does what. So we have the over travel screw. This screw here at the top is for trigger over travel. This screw here is for length of pull or weight of pull. So you have to take the gun out of the stock to adjust it. So we're going to actually put it in, and then we'll set the trigger. But normally when you set these in, they're just about fine. Now, one thing you'll notice about the Timney is the sear is not separate. Sear and sear spring aren't separate like there is on this gun, so it makes it a little bit easier to install. So we're going to install it actually from the left side of the gun to the right, because we need to catch this spring and bolt release. So we're going to take the opportunity to wipe off the bolt release since it's out of the gun now. These get gummed up quite a bit. It causes a real sluggish bolt release sometimes. So it's going to sit right in the gun just like that, and the end of it, this little tab right here goes underneath here. It goes underneath the bolt release lever, so that when you, let me go ahead and index it. The thought process being, when you push on, there we go. When you push on the lever or push on this button, which you can when the gun is assembled, it pushes the bolt catch out of the way of the bolt, allows you to remove the bolt from the rear. So we also have to get this spring in there. So we're going to back this pin out enough for the loop of that spring to get in there. And this 90-degree bend on the spring, a lot of people try to loop it on top of this bolt catch. That's not where it goes. It actually just goes into the cutout of the receiver itself, behind the trigger. We're going to press that down into place. We're going to catch it with the pointed end of that spring, like that, and we're going to push this through. Now it should live flush with that bolt catch, just like that. So if you notice, if you try to push it in too far, it's going to impinge upon the lever of that safety. So we want to make sure that we're not rubbing against that. So now, you can do it either way. You could put the front end first and then put the back end. You can do it this way. Either way it's going to work. It really should have gone in the other way. But we're going to make this work here, just like this. You want to make sure you're going all the way through, but you want to make sure you want to have good, clear motion on this, and you can see the end of that pin right there. So trigger's now installed, so we can run the bolt back in. We have good bolt lock here. So that's actually feels pretty good to me. I didn't bring my scale in with me here, but if a customer had a particular pull weight he wanted it to be set at, we could set it now. But it's probably set mid-range. I would imagine it's set right about between 2.5 and 3 pounds is what normally they come out of the box with. So now we just reassemble everything else in reverse order. I compress this magazine box this way to fit into its cutout in the receiver. Like so. And now I'm going to, this little bitty tiny screw is going to go back in here. So you have to be kind of careful with this guy, and again, inappropriately wide screwdriver bit. But we may be able to get it done. Okay. Harder than it should have been, but now we're tight and right. So this is not tight and springing out, which is what I was trying to avoid. So we're going to drop this in, rounded edge to the front. And now we're going to absolutely see whether or not we're good to go on this stocking letting. I believe we are. This is a later ADL, so it should drop right in. So we shall see. Try without the spring, see if it will go. Okay, yeah, it's going to go. So you can see we have clearance here. They make a thin shoe version of this trigger, and sometimes, especially on the older guns, that's the trigger that you need. So the problem with the ADL is when you compress it, that spring wants to ride up in front of the mag box and it needs to come in. So you have to come in kind of forward, bring that screw to the back, and then set it in place like that. I don't know why. Today it's going to be one of those days where it seems like everything I try to do is going to be harder than it needs to be. So maybe I should just go back to the house and take a nap today. Don't want to forget this little washer. You can stick it right here on the, right where the rear trigger screw or the trigger bow screw goes in. I like to run the rear screw in before I run the middle screw. And we could use, again, there's a better screwdriver bit for this. I'm a big believer in using the correct screwdriver bit, but that's the correct screwdriver bit for this screw. And I didn't want to just sit here and change screwdriver bit. So that's laziness taking over. So don't be me. No bang there, bang there. So that's the installation of a Timney trigger, pretty straightforward, and normally well within the capabilities of the average home tinkerer. You don't necessarily need to have a gunsmith do it. Again, if you buy the trigger from us, we'll be happy to put it in there at no extra charge for you. Make life a little bit simpler. But Remington 700 Timney install. If you like what we're doing, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel out. And we'll hit that notify button to get notified when we put out more stuff. We try to do it at least once or twice a week. And once again, thanks for watching, and see you next time.